Everybody, welcome back. We are on air, and I'm your man, Bad Chad. I'm getting pretty good at that, aren't I? What? Getting pretty good at that. Yesterday was fantastic. Idled the car, turned the idle screw up on the car a little bit, got it idling, went and put some new gas in it. Everything worked out fantastic for my daughter and her date. Wow, what a big relief. But it worked out fantastic. Even Jolene got to be there and do a little camera work at the same time. She had to run and rush and all that sort of stuff, but that's what she does and that's what she's good at. God bless Jolene. She's my queen. She looks like a Werther's candy right now, and I can taste her. Anyways, this is what we're going to do today. I've got some guide coat, and I'm going to guide coat the hood on the car. And the reason being, I'm going to guide coat the whole car, but I'm going to guide coat the hood of the car. The hood of the car was checked. What I mean by checked, it had a bunch of lines going everywheres, and I think things were starting to break down. I am not going to strip this car, not doing that. I am putting a paint job on it for a freebie for Jolene's stepdaddy, Tim. That's all what I'm doing, and we're lucky we're able to do that. So basically what's going to go on is I'm going to shake this can up, and I'm going to throw some guide coat on. I generally try to throw my guide coat on neat. I try to do, I guess what happens is when I do cars or I do anything, I just try to do each step the best I can, and in the end you have a pretty good job, you know, if you do it the best you can. If one step is not that great, it generally reflects in the job overall. So I try to do each job good, and then in the end you have a good job done. Basically, this is one of the steps that you must, or I think you must do, and the reason I think it's a must, because you're going to sand the car anyways, you may as well have something on there to let you know if it looks good. That's basically all I'm doing it for. It's not because of anything other than to let me know if I'm going to do a good job or not, if I'm going to miss anything. My eyes are not the greatest right now and in this part in my life, so I need this, to be honest with you. Just like I need Jolene. I want, I love my Jolene. What was I going to say now? I want to thank everybody for the good comments on the car. And anybody that throws out good comments on the page or anything like that, you are muchly appreciated. And I want to thank you very much for taking your time and writing something nice down. You can't, you know, it says everything about who you are if you're going to write something nice down on the computer. And don't forget, that computer that you're writing things down on will tell people who you are in life. That'll tell people who you are. When you write something down that is good, that's who you are. When you write something that, don't even care. When you write something else, they also know who you are. And it's there for life to tell people who you are if anybody wants to look it up. I'm sure there's going to be a day where the computer, you're able to say, I want to know about this person. And we'll probably bring up everything that person's ever said, and people will know who that person is. Now I want to thank all the good people, because you're awesome. Just like you're awesome. Thank you. Appreciate it. You take time to throw out a good comment, you'll be known as a good person. I'm going to just take the spray bomb and go this way a little bit, just spray it that way. And I'm going to put the guide coat on as neat as possible. I've seen guide coat crisscross like that. It's just another job I try to do neat as possible, and I want to put it on as neat as possible. So I'm going to put it on as if I was spraying the car. Does not matter. Basically, it does not matter how neat you do it. It does not. But it matters to me when I come in and look at the car and it looks like it's got a nice even coat of guide coat. Where it's spraying back like that, hitting my fingertip, that's called a boo-boo. See, hit my fingertip? But anyways, it's fine. It's going to be sanded off, basically. Get a nice coat on there, make it look half decent. And the reason I'm doing it half decent is because when someone comes in and takes a look, then it just looks better, that's all. My finger's getting sore, so I'm going to use my thumb. Okay. Just going to crisscross in front of you, Jolene, sweetheart. My sexy queen. Her new nickname is Werther's. She's sweet like candy. Just going to put a little on the fenders. Ba, 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 ba. Ba, na, 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 na. All right, the ocean floor, like basically what I'm saying is if I done a car like that, like the Jaguar, where it's covered in fill, there's been a lot of pieces welded on it, like on the top where we have welded stuff, where they've already had the fill in, I'm just kind of straightening it out and adding to it. But on the ocean floor of that would be the filler. When you start hitting filler, like say the car, what I'm talking about, when the car is primed, when you start hitting filler, then you know that you have an issue. That's the ocean floor to me. So when I start sanding this car, when I hit the paint, to me that is the ocean floor. And because there's no body work going on, there's some scratch work done and some check work done, but the ocean floor on this is the paint. So if I see something red coming through, I think it went black in a few places, but if you see any red coming through, that is the ocean floor. I'm going to stop. And the reason I'm going to stop is because I'm not going to go through the paint and down into the material to try to do anything. That means I have to do more work to the hood, just like that car there. Now, if I prime the whole car, when I start blocking it out with the primer and I start going through the body fill, I know there's something going on. There's an issue. So basically, what I'm saying is, if you can sand your car off, and I do not see any red paint on the hood, we know that we got something looking good. And that means when the guide coat is gone. So if we sand it all off and the guide coat is all gone and all we see is gray primer, we should have a good job done. And when you do primer, I suggest, or you do it any way you want to, you would use a block on primer. Primer is the last thing that you're doing, and generally you should use a block. I am going to use a DA because I'm throwing a paint job in this car. There's not much body work going on here. And I generally use a DA like a block, and you can too. You can take it if you like it. If you don't, throw it away. But generally on something like this, on the Jaguar, if I primed the whole car, I would use a block on the primer with the guide coat. And then I could see where the highs and lows are with using the guide coat and the primer. Hope that makes sense. So right now I'm just kind of letting that, I'm just letting it, just going to rub that in there for a second. I find it's kind of dusty, sort of. Just going to rub it in, make sure it's all over the hood. It's called guide coat for a reason. Just don't want to fill up the sandpaper. Generally you just leave the guide coat alone, but I'm playing with it for some reason. I want to sand it, is what I want to do, is I want to sand it. I'm making my hands all black. Guide coat is still on there. I guess it kind of goes dusty like that to make sure that it goes in all the little crevices and places that you're going to sand to make sure for optimum use of it, I guess. I'm going to take a rag and wipe that off. And my hand. Jolene's going to say, "Don't touch me. You're dirty." I'm just going to wipe that off. And basically the reason I'm doing this is because I'm going to sand it right quickly in front of your very eyes so I don't fill up the sandpaper. We still have guide coat on it, mind you. It's just I'm wiping off the dust part of it. And you can do a guide coat in anything. You can do it in base. What I mean by base is just mix a little thinner with it and mix it really thin, and you can spray it on a light coat. It'll dry really fast. That's what base does. If you don't know, base dries really quick, and you can use that. I was going to use it, but Jolene said this is more relatable. It's just guide coat. Got it at my Napa store, my Napa know-how store, and I'm going to use it. So I'm going to use a DA on this. I'm going to use a DA like I would a sanding block. Exact same thing. I'm going to hold it flat, crisscross it, and go all different ways. Most generally, you block your primer with a block. I am not going to go 220 on this. I'm going to skip the step of 220 and then guide coating and then 400. I'm going to skip it, and the reason being is there's no real body work done on the car. Like, there's a few scratches done. I done some body work over here on this piece where it was broke. We did a little bit on the roof. Just a little tiny bits of body work everywhere, like little bits, not much at all for anything to be straight or crooked. Not looking to sand out a bunch of scratches because there's not many scratches in it. On the roof where the body work was, it's round. You would never, like on this strip on the side of the roof, you would never see much on that where that's, you know, round like that, where it goes like this and goes like this. It's hard to see if anything's straight if the panel's not straight. If the panel's round like this and round like this, like I said, like a Volkswagen or something like that, it's hard to tell if something's wavy, like it really is. And where I filled it from there to there, I should not have a problem with any of it. Yeah. Alrighty, so I got the hood guide coated, and I suggest that if you're painting your car that you use guide coat. That's what I suggest. I suggest you use guide coat. You can block it if you want to. Where did I put that sandpaper at, baby? Do you know? Do you remember? I suggest that you use a block. I suggest you use a block. And if you want to use a DA, move it quickly. Move it quickly. Hold it flat. And pay attention to what you're sanding. Once it's all sanded and your guide coat is gone, that means you move along. And what I mean by move along is get going. Alrighty. I'm going to use, this is 400, so I'm going, right after this, I'm going right to paint. I'm not messing around with this car. I've got most of it looking pretty good. The panels are all seem to be pretty decent. The hood is the worst piece on the whole car, I would say, because of being checked. And what I mean by checked, like I said before, heat, dried out, whatever. Here we go. Just as we start off, there's the texture of the primer. That's the texture of the primer. If I did not have any guide coat on that, that's the difference. Can't see shit. Can't see, excuse my licorice. Can't see what's going on there. Now take a look at that. Exact same stuff, exact same primer, exact same everything. I just took that 400 and laid it on that quarter panel. You can't see any texture whatsoever, but you put that guide coat on, you can see exactly what's going on. That's proof in the pudding why you should use guide coat. That's the proof right there. That's the proof. I've got the DA turned down so it's not going fast. I'm going all over the hood like you should with the block. At all times when you're sanding something like this, you should be all over the place to try to make it all one surface. I'm just going to stand here and block that one spot and then go over here and block that one spot. You're really actually concentrating on one spot. When you're blocking something, you want to concentrate on the whole panel to be nice and smooth. And that's why I'm going to move this thing around quite quick, and I'm going to hold it flat. Keep the camera moving because it's kind of fast. You would never see that texture of that primer if I never had the guide coat on it. And I proved it. It's always nice to have proof, even though sometimes it doesn't matter for some. like to wipe it off my pants because I might make it look like I'm working dirty. That's not true. It's just wiping the sandpaper off so it can bite in again. Let's look at this panel. Okay. Texture is gone. Okay. Texture is gone. I got one little spot right there. You would never see that if you were sanding that. Didn't have a guide coat, you'd never see that. One little spot right there. I got a little place up in here, but I don't want to, I'm just going to take it and do it by hand because we're kind of in there on the corner a little bit. I kind of leaned it over there for a second trying to get that. And I've got a little tiny bit going on right here. There's not much, but a little tiny bit. And you would see something like that in paint. You will see it in paint. Yes, you will. So I'm just going to take it, I'm just going to take and rub over it a little bit more, try to get that. And one thing I'm going to say, that right there is almost perfect for paint. Not broken through anywheres. All the texture's gone. There's no big guide coat showing. Well done. Well done, Chetty. Trying to spread it over, trying to get that piece, even though I'm trying to get that one little spot up there. I'm not concentrating just on that. I'm going to do the whole piece and keep sanding down the whole panel to try to get it. Alrighty, looking good. Guide coat's gone, no red paint, looking really good. Got a little tiny bit right there, and that's a little bit of hand sanding. All right, let's move to the center of the hood. I'm going to change my piece of paper. Change my paper. I put that back over there. I know I did. Thank you, sweetheart. It's a hot one here in Nova Scotia today. It was a hot one yesterday. No rain. Harley's boyfriend got to the prom, dropped the car down right. He did an awesome job driving it. He listened to me what I said, and he did a great job. Harley looked fantastic, and I want to congratulate her on doing something that I didn't. Graduate. But we all must know, school is a place to learn, but it has nothing to do with life. It really does not. A lot of people are trained to go to school, and like Harley had A's all the way through. She was even in the, what's that? She was even in an advanced placement, so that means that, you know, she took university courses while she was in high school and won awards for it. And she has that underneath her belt. But I did not want her to go to college because I want her to go forward in life before she goes backwards. And as everybody goes to college and what you're trained to do, to go $50,000, $60,000, $80,000 in debt or whatever it is, I do not want my daughter to do that. I want her to go forward first, to learn or to think about what she wants in life first. Life is way different than going to school. Way different. And I know I'm proof in the pudding. I've got a grade 9, and I'm doing fine. So if there's any kiddo here that watches this or young person that watches these videos, I want you to know, if you do not go to college, that is your chance to come ahead, to come forward. That's your chance. Believe me, that's your chance. I'm hoping that Harley Warley, my daughter named Harley, I call her Harley Warley because she's my daughter, but I'm hoping that she gets to come ahead while everybody's in school doing what they think is their lessons and what they think they're going to do for the rest of their life when they have no idea. Probably half of them won't even use the courses that they pay for. But I hope that she comes ahead as they go backwards. So what I'm saying is she'll be money in the bank, and the people coming out of school will owe money. So if you don't go to college, don't fret. It's your chance to come forward. You can see the marks there on the hood where it was checked. You can see that. You can see them lines there. What I mean by it's being checked. And what I'm hoping is, with the guide coat and me sanding it off to get like this, with the primer that we have on, that'll be gone. Be gone, check. I'm doing this with a 400. I'm trying to skip the 220 stage. And the reason I'm trying to skip the 220 stage is because of how fast I can get the job done. That's basically the end of it. And with me doing it with a DA, I'm trying to make it faster than doing it twice. I want to do it once and be over. Now, if I was getting paid, you might want to do it twice. Makes sense, doesn't it? They call that farming it. Crisscross it just like I would your block. Exact same thing. No paint coming through yet. That's a great thing. That's a great thing. No paint coming through yet. Just for your reinsurance, I will put a mask on after I'm done this. And that way there I can talk and feel like I'm explaining myself. I will put a mask on right after this hood. No red paint yet. It's going good. No red paint yet. Alrighty. I'm just going to put this down for a second. What was I using? Did I use that red? I want a new rag. Just to be careful, I want to use a new rag. When you're grabbing rags and you do not know what's on the rag, it can be a mistake. And the reason being is it can have something on it that does not like paint. Alrighty, let's take a look at this panel. This is what's going on this panel. All the scratches are gone. I have rubbed my fingernail over that. I can't feel it, so it's okay. It's okay. I have a little peck right here. Got a peck. It's got to be fixed. Right in the middle of the hood. There's a peck. Did not see it. Got to fix it. And I'll end up fixing that with just as little filler that is possible. I might even do it with a razor blade, mix a little filler up, just a little tiny bit. And what I mean by razor blade, just put it on like very little. I think I will put a mask on for the end of this. It's kind of getting dusty. I'm going to put a mask on. What the hey? It's hot in here, I can tell you that. I'm just going to set this aside because that's the one I'm going to use. But you can see how that hood is coming off nicely. There's no red showing. There's no guide coat showing. So that means that I feel safe to apply paint. And if I'm holding something flat, you must think about it for a second. If I'm holding something flat, it doesn't matter if it's a DA or if it's a block or if it's a long block or whatever. As long as I'm holding it flat, we should be fine. Besides, we did not really do much work to the hood other than up front here we did some work. And you can still see how the filler is staying in the areas that we fixed. You can see some filler in the where we fixed. And that's fine because it fixed it. I'm going to take my hat off for a second. Jolene cut my hair. I don't know how good it looks this morning, but who cares? There's a good mask. All right, that was a brand new one. That was a dud. That's a dud. So the whole car has to be done the way that I'm showing on the hood. The whole car is not going to be done with a DA. And I'm telling you the reason why it's not going to be all done with the DAs because of the round surfaces. I'm only going to be able to do the flatter surfaces with the DA, and that would be the trunk lid, maybe the flat along the back of here, maybe the top of this, maybe a little bit up here. But this stuff here is all going to have to be done by hand or a block. Let's put a new piece of paper on. See what we can't make that hood look like. You would think that I had a sweeper the way that I throw that sandpaper on the floor, but me and Jolene cleaned it up. Let's go to the other side. Now, I just want to show you this. Now you can see the areas where it's checked. There, it's checked. You know what I mean? You can see that straight line going. Got a straight line going there. It's got one going here, one going there. You can see an area here. That's what I mean by checked. And we're trying to take all them straight lines. Them straight lines are where it's checked, where it's shrunken, or where the guide coat is coming off nice. That's where we 220'd it already. That's where the surface is flat. That's where the work was done. That's why the guide coat. That's why the guide coat's coming off really fast because we already got that accomplished with the 220. Now we can still see it, so you can still see our lines. You see some of the lines still? See how the primer's filling them? And if the primer fills them, then that's what it's for. But there's no filler in my car. Holding it flat all the time, not tipping it any which way. Swear to God I worked at Porsche or something. Wouldn't you, huh? I'm saying, come take a look, sweetheart. I'm saying that the checking of the hood is gone. That area of the hood, I would say, is paintable, very paintable. And I'm going to paint it. It's just, I want to show you the difference. So now we're going up in here, same process. Not going to make that piece of sandpaper do all that work. I'm going to give it another piece. Sharper sandpaper just works nicer. And remember, basically what I'm doing is I'm polishing the primer to a nice flat finish to allow paint. And it's going good so far. All this stuff in here will be done by hand. take notice, no red paint showing yet. So that means good things. Also, when everybody's saying, oh, we use the block, you got to use the block, you got to use the block. Well, there's no body work that took place on the hood, so the hood should be straight, should be fine. You know, we fixed a few pix areas and stress cracks and that sort of stuff. But other than that, everything should be fine. Also, you do not have to agree, but I'm going to tell you, if I did all the body work on that car, primed it, 4 coats, 5 coats, and the only reason I would have to block the car out before I painted it is because things aren't straight yet, basically. Block your car, block your car. Well, if it was wavy and the bodywork was not straight, well, I would want to use the block to make the primer take up for the areas that are low and that need filler. That's what this primer is about. It's a filling agent. You know, when I put it on, I'm not spraying it like paint with a great big wide pattern because this stuff is thick. It's a form of filler. In order, you know, if I made this car perfectly straight with my body work, I should be able to sand it off by hand and paint it. But for when you're doing cars like this, we know, or most generally, the car is not perfectly straight all over. So we prime it with the filler primer, and then we guide coat it and block it to try to fix the areas that are not right. If you're putting on your filler and it's wavy, yeah, you better get a block and straighten it out. You better block your primer. But if you're good enough, or if you're doing your filler straight and right and tight, you should be able to sand it off by hand and paint it. There's no reason to block anything because it's already been blocked with 40 grit and 80 grit. If you understand what I'm saying. We all want to make the car as best as possible. Yes, we do. And I suggest that you do block your cars in the end. But you must stop and think for a second. The reason we are blocking them in the end is try to pick up and straighten out poor bodywork. That's the end of it. And straighten things out. That's what we're doing. And that's what we use the primer for, the 2-part primer, is to straighten, fix, fill. That's what it's for. And to make a nice texture to paint. Take a look at that and see all the texture in it. You would never know that if you were just sanding it without guide coat. You would never see that. And I proved it on the quarter panel. And I can prove it again if you like. But I'm busy. Holding it flat at all times, crisscrossing it, just like I would a block. Guide coat there. I'm sweating. Alrighty. Gonna wipe the hood off. So I've done that with the 400. I did not do the 220 process. I'm skipping that process because I want to paint the car. I'm feeling that the panels are straight enough to paint because there's been not a whole bunch of body work that's been done to them. These panels are, I'm not sure, polyurethane. I don't know what the plastic name is for them. But I feel like all the panels are fine to paint. I had to fix a couple areas where I felt it was checked too bad, or there's some picks in the plastic part. But what's going on is I'm trying to skip that 220 step, and I would use that 220 step if I had filled it all and I primed it and I want it to make it straight as possible. I wouldn't skip the 220 step because I'd want to cut the primer to take place of poopy bodywork. That's about the end of it. So, come look at the hood, sweetheart. We can see there's no guide coat on the hood where I've sanded. And we know that the guide coat is good enough that it picks up the texture of the primer. So we should know that the hood is smooth enough for paint. Basically, that's what I'm saying. This stuff will be sanded by hand. Around the edges there a little bit, sanded by hand because it's got a little bit of curve to it. We will do the exact same process with that as we done with the hood. We'll make sure it's gone and we sand it fluently through the whole thing. I'm not just going to sand it all the way off, make it nice and right like that. So the whole car is going to get guide coated. The bumper's all going to get guide coated that way. The fenders are going to get guide coated that way. And we'll bring it down to this playing field. Also, you see no red paint. There's nothing on that. It hasn't come through. Tells me that the hood is tight and right. So basically we'll do that on the back. We'll do it up here. Any part that's flat, we'll do it with the 400. We'll do the best job we can. All the round stuff will be done by hand. And I guess that's today's video, is the necessity of guide coat, and I guess a little bit of explanation why I'm using the primer, and it's to fill. To fill. That's what the primer's for. If you say you got no fill on your car, what is the primer? Primer is fill. The basic primer today is to fill, help fill places that are low, help fill scratches, help fill basically anything. If you got no fill in your car, you would just epoxy it and paint it. That's called no fill. Not many people just epoxy their car and bare metal and then paint it. Generally they prime it, they block it, and the reason they block it is to straighten the car. Because this stuff is filler, and it helps straighten your car out. And I must say, I think we may be the only YouTube station that shows body fill. I think we're probably the only ones that really show the use of body fill. If you were into a body shop, you would see body fill slung everywhere. Yes, you would. And that's what happens. I know there's a lot of metal out there, and you think, wow, that looks so good. The metal looks so good. The metal looks so good. But in all fact, it's getting covered like that. That's the truth of the matter. Nobody is welding up cars, epoxying them, and painting them. It's not happening. Once the metal work is done or the body work is done, it goes to the body shop. Have a good one, everybody. I am